Good afternoon, everyone. With global food supplies declining, we're going to need solutions. We might want to look to the past. 1,200-year-old irrigation canals in Spain. FAO says almost 9% of the global population's hungry already. These supply shocks on the increasing food price, not going to be helpful. African countries importing Russian and Ukrainian wheat are going to see massive price increases. Many countries from Africa, let's focus in on Nigeria, fourth from the top. Is Nigeria exaggerating rice production figures? Fourth largest soybean exporter in the world now, cutting their crop by 60%. They're going to need to import soy this year. That's why all commodities are screaming northward. With CBS News, crystal ball, gas prices, inflation, supply chain issues, that was 2 or 3 years in the making. This Ukraine thing's a 2-day-old event. Maybe they're climbing the pyramid of peanuts to view the economic landscape. Is 2022 the year we see capital rotation out of risk assets like crypto and stocks, jumping into safe haven assets like gold? Gold investors haven't been losing sleep over the stock market's taper tantrum, with Blackstone warning of a lost decade, quote unquote, where stock market returns are anemic. We have Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all forecasting gold over $2,000 an ounce in 2022, and Bloomberg says there's a potential for $3,000 per ounce on their price targets. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And before we can talk about the problem, I'd like to frame it a little bit here on who's going to get hit the worst. You know, these rising food prices, you might be able to budget in a few extra dollars here and there if things double in price or not available, or things go up 50%. Other nations, other people are not so lucky. Even a few cent rise will bankrupt many. This comes from the FAO. About 9% of the global population lives in hunger every single day already because they can't afford food. So when things are definitely going 30, 50, 100, 150, 200% up, there's going to be some social cohesion come unglued at this point. So we're going to need to start looking for solutions. I like to look in the past. Why don't we use gravity? All of you green energy people, you never talk about gravity. It's always got to be a machine through the centralized command of a factory and a corporation to get your hands on something green, when we could use gravity or the electromagnetic field of the planet to spin magnets to create electricity. But let's go back to the water here. Funnel water, 1,200-year-old canals. Perhaps the past is the future, because look how much they are growing using gravity-fed water. Gives you an indication that there's many, many things possible. If we were to look at our world in a different fashion than Fortune 500 purchases. Now, since the Ukrainian crisis has begun, myself and Ice Age farmer Christian Westbrook have been diving into the Ukrainian and Russian production and where it's outbound in exports. 29% of global wheat exports coming from those two countries, and about 20% of the world's corn. That's offline at the moment. Don't know if the planting season is going to go on as it should, coming next month. But the conversation, how Russian-Ukraine conflict could influence Africa's food supplies. So looking down in Africa, this list here: Sudan, Nigeria, Tanzania, Algeria, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt are major importers of Russian and Ukrainian wheat. Like 90% of what they're buying is Ukrainian and Russian wheat. Now 6% sunflower, also not as forthcoming, but that can be made up elsewhere. But a massive amount of 90% of wheat coming into a continent, coming from two places, that's hard to rebalance. So the article's short but well written. They talk about it from the African agriculture perspective. Commodity prices are going to scream northward, and anybody involved in agriculture is going to become wealthy overnight. Problem is, those same profits are being nibbled away, and I should say great white shark bitten away by the high fertilizer and herbicide costs, if it's even available. This is going to cause reduction in global output anyway, just because of the inavailability of fertilizer and herbicides. But as we get pinched again right off the FAO report, this sandwich is right in it. Rising commodity prices, bad news for consumers. Prices have been going up and up for the last 2 years. Now we have this set of events. Exports of wheat, corn down. People are going to pay much, much more. And hungry people don't have the means to buy food. They become angry. A lot of change is going to happen in these nations here. Now, if we look up at Egypt, Turkey, Bangladesh, and then number 4, Nigeria. Huge country. And then Yemen, Sudan, Senegal, Tunisia, but they also grow wheat. And they've had some record production along with Algeria because of the increasing rainfall in the northern parts of Africa. Morocco as well. They're all importers, but they're still increasing their domestic production. But Nigeria, full expose on the government exaggerating production figures of rice, possibly. Now, they're saying that they don't import rice anywhere. If extra rice comes from anywhere else, it's been smuggled in or illegally imported. Something does not seem right in this first expose into investigation of the U.S. government reports versus local domestic. Numbers just don't add up, and some reporters are starting to ask why and why prices continue to increase for rice. If there's more production in Nigeria, prices should come down, but why is it not? And this is only part 1 in their series, and I'm excited to see about part 2 because they are chasing down the rice chain, if there is such a thing. Deliveries, but in the article, this old 1955 northern Nigeria, bags of peanuts in Kano. They call it the peanut pyramid. Interesting. I love these old black and white photos. Transportation, logistics. And in Myanmar, I saw something very similar where the boats were unloaded, not with cranes, but each individual would carry one bag off, just like this, get a stick with a color on it, and then they would go back for another load. So with that said, there's going to be a lot of jockeying for excess capacity or production on the planet. Obviously, many are going to jump to Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay to see what they can scour out of those areas. Sorry, China's already been there. They're buying pretty much everything. But if there were any left, it would be a bidding war to no end. And suddenly we find Paraguay, the 4th largest exporter of soybeans in the world, on the planet, cut 60% down to 4 million tons. They produced 10 million last year. They're down to 4 million this year. More than 50% lost. So the local meat production, soybean exports, oils all go hand in hand. But 80% of the local meat production exported to Chile, Russia, UAE, and Taiwan, of all places. So we're going to see drastic shifts there too. Other foods are going to need to be found in other places. So meat prices up and up for any of these importing nations here. It's already lean on the meat side anyway, no pun intended on the lean. But these numbers of a decline of 60%, leaving 4 million tons, that's exactly what you would expect in a grand solar minimum. But then the Tonga eruption will add in as moving through the next year or so with acid rain, sulfur dioxide, a little bit cooler temperatures in the southern hemisphere. Paraguay Chamber of Exporters, Marketers, Cereals, and Oil Seeds if you want to dive onto their site for more info. Everything's linked in the description box below, so you can just chase down the lead yourself. Just click. Every article I do, I put the link there so you can do your own research. And here's the interesting thing. Paraguay could be forced to import soybeans, but they're the number 4 exporter on the entire planet, but they need to import this year. So there's a bunch of crush facilities down there, like ADM, Archer Daniels Midland. They're the ones who closed, along with Bunge, facilities in Ukraine just yesterday, in Cargill, the same. So all the same companies operating in Ukraine are also down here in Paraguay. Problem was they didn't have enough oilseed to roll through to get the compression that they needed last year, and they were having difficulties with the expellers and whatnot because the drought had affected the density of the soybeans, and it was just a terrible run last year, all kind of problems in the machinery. And then 500,000 tons less than 2013, and then this year almost nothing. So they're going to shutter operations there for a while until they can get the soybean input and throughput, whatever you like to term that as. So then you can see why soybeans are up in Chicago, as well as wheat, corn, and everything food. But what I find so interesting here is CBS News. The U.S. economy has been hit with increased gasoline prices, inflation, and supply chain issues due to, I bang my forehead, the Ukraine crisis. Wait a second, this is like a 2-day-old event. How can they blame everything that's been going on for the last 2 years on one thing? You can see how this is being reworded. Blame all those things on something else. And how long will it be before you hear it enough times that you start to believe it? Scapegoat has to be somewhere. And I bet scapegoat pricing is increasing as well on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And during these uncertain times, you might want to think about storable foods. My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 3-month emergency food supply, 25-year shelf life. That's what you're going to want to target to be putting in your home to store for that rainy day you hope doesn't come around. But that link's in the description box below, along, like I said, with all of tonight's images, graphics, so you can do your own research. I appreciate you spending your time with me. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.